Hi there, welcome to another painting tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to paint some sunflowers and grapes in acrylic, so let's get started. I'm going to spray down the canvas with a fine mist sprayer. That's just going to allow my paint to flow a little bit better. And let's start with some darker values. So in this class or tutorial, I want to try using some larger brushes. And let's start with a size 9 flat brush. And I'm going to take a straight black paint and see if I can quickly kind of do these darker values here of the grapes. So I want to kind of go in between the grapes and then kind of outline each individual grape as well. Try not to use too much paint, but this is going to be kind of a background layer, so we're going to be painting over it. Doesn't have to be too precise, and it's good to practice with larger brushes. It allows some of the brush strokes to be a little bit more cohesive, and it can actually make your work look a little more neat, which is kind of counterintuitive. You think the smaller brushes will make your work look neater, but actually sometimes using a large brush will do that. Okay, so just outline all those grapes and try to go in between the spaces of the grapes as well. All right, and then you want that to dry really well. I'm getting my water a little bit black, so it might be a good idea to have 2 water jars for this project. So sticking with this brush, let's grab a brown shade. I have a Vandyke Brown. And let's try to put in the centers of the sunflowers. Just kind of painting that in. Just kind of twirl your brush. Get a pretty good coat on there. It's a little tricky to paint the exact shape you want with a larger brush, but that's something that just takes a little bit of practice. Okay, so now we're going to do a lifting technique, and I have this brush. It's a small size, it's kind of a mop brush, and it's just really kind of frayed, and I'm going to just get that damp. So I'm getting it wet and then rinsing it or drying it off on a paper towel, and then I'm going to see if I can lift the paint here. I'm just pressing down and kind of lifting up. Then I'm rinsing the brush. And you can see how that gives kind of a 3-dimensional look to the center of the flower. If you need to lift a little bit more, you might have to do it a couple times. And then I'm going to switch to a size 6 round brush. And I want to take some black paint, and I'm going to just touch in some black in the center. You can see how that really gives you a nice 3-dimensional look. There's quite a bit of water on there as well, and that's just going to give a watercolor effect, which is nice. And then you can take your black and go all the way around the outside of this center. And that's just giving you a really beautiful 3-dimensional look for your sunflower. Okay, so that's about it for the really dark values. Actually, well, why don't we let this dry and switch out our water to a clear water, and then we'll come back and we'll add color on top of this. Next, let's put some color down for the leaves, and let's keep with this large size 9 flat brush. And I have some different shades of green on the palette. I have this lighter green, so I'm going to try to load the brush with half and half. So I'm putting half of this light green on one end of the brush, and then I'm adding this darker green to the other. And then I'm thinking about where my shadow is, and the shadow's going to be on this side, so I want that darker green to be on the left side. And I'm going to kind of start from up here, press down, and I'm just letting that green kind of mix on the page as I go. Those two different colors. And I'm just allowing that to give me a beautiful variety of colors without doing a lot of work. And then let's try to repeat that for the upper leaf. So I'll get a dark, and then the shadow is going to be on the left side. So I've got that darker green on the left, and I'm just pushing down. Mixing that paint right on the paper. If I need to get a little bit more paint, I can do that. And that I want to be careful around the leaves of, or the petals of the flower, because that yellow might not cover this green. So just be a little bit careful there. And just go carefully around your petals. Okay, and then let's do that on this one. Actually, I want to add a little bit darker green to this one. Just mixing it right on the page. And this technique with the larger brush, it gives you very beautiful expressionistic type of brush strokes. So let's try this one. So it's giving you that shade and that dimension without really working too hard. And then your strokes are nice and clean as well. So it's a beautiful technique, and it works great with acrylic. Okay, so while those are drying, let's go to the grapes. So let's stick with this same size 9 brush. And I have this beautiful purple color. It's like a plum. And then I have this kind of maroon shade as well. So I'm going to do that same technique, add both of those colors onto the same brush. And I think the purple is a darker value than this reddish color. So I'll put the reddish color in where the light is shining, and then have the darker color to the left. And I'm going to go straight on top of these, right on top of this black. And I'm going to try to make circles with this brush. So I'm going on top of the black. And it could be a little tricky to make circles, small circles with this larger brush, but again, it's a good practice to kind of work on your loose style. And I'm letting that black underpainting just kind of act as my shadow. Just try to make a circular shape. You can use quite a bit of paint with this technique. A lot of paint works well to kind of mix the colors on the canvas while you're going along. Okay, so I would probably do another layer of this. I'm going to take just the edge of this brush and kind of just the purpley shade and kind of add a shadow. You can see I'm making kind of just a curved shape with that darker purple, using the end of this brush, just because I want to cover up some of that underpainting. I don't want it to show through too much. Okay, so we're just trying to get three-dimensional form here. So I could take a little bit of this red. I could do that same thing, kind of finish the circle on the right side using the edge of the brush, mixing those colors together. And it looks like I forgot some grapes here. We want to go all the way up here with these shapes. Sometimes when you get too close to the work, you can't really see the full picture, so that's a good reminder to kind of step back. Okay, and then let's try to add some highlights here. So I have this pale purple, kind of a pastel purple. I might mix it with a little bit of this darker shade of purple. And then let's try to pop on some highlights to these grapes. I don't want to do too much. You can also kind of do a dry brush effect here. So I'm gonna get a damp brush and kind of blend in some of those highlights that I just put in, because they're kind of showing up a little bit too brightly for my liking. So I'm just kind of blending that paint. On this side, I want to make sure that I cover up some of that darker black underpainting. Okay, so that looks all right. You might want to switch to a smaller brush at this point. So I could have a size 4 flat. So let's take, I want a little bit more of a highlight. So I'm going to take this maroon, mix it with a little bit of titanium white, and then let's try to put that in as a highlight. Maybe a little bit more white. These are just smaller highlights. And you could just do kind of like a square shape and give that painterly look. Okay, so go ahead and take your time with that part. Kind of clean up your edges if you need to do that. I probably need to clean up some edges on my piece over here. Okay, so the rest of the painting should be fairly dry, so let's move on to the petals. And let's switch back to that size 9 flat brush. And we're going to do kind of the same technique. So this time we're going to take a little bit of a lemon yellow on one end of the brush, and then we're going to take a yellow ochre on the other, that beautiful mustard dark yellow ochre. And let's just kind of put that on there. You want to press down and just kind of wiggle and move your brush as needed to fill in those petals. I might do a little spray just to kind of allow my paint to flow. can see how that just made it a little easier, but it also makes it kind of breaks down the paint a little bit as well, so be careful of that. And if you're painting along at home, go ahead and kind of turn the paper. It's going to be a lot easier to kind of paint all your petals that way. And you can think about where the shadow is as well. Maybe you want your petals on the bottom to be a little bit darker than the ones at the top. And again, that paint is just mixing beautifully right on the paper. This is kind of like one stroke painting. I don't know if you've seen that, but it kind of has the same idea, loading the brush with more than one color and being able to cover an entire shape with just one stroke. And that's good practice to be, what do they call it, a little more economical with your brush strokes. It's great practice, I think. Okay, then I'm going to take this Pastel Yellow. I'm just going to put in some highlights. You can just do that like fairly quickly and kind of very loose. Okay, and then I have a size 6 round brush, and I'm going to use this Burt Sienna. And with the Burt Sienna, you can carefully go around the bottom of your sunflower petals and kind of stroke upwards. And this is just going to give you a little bit more definition for your flower. It's going to give you a little bit more shape and more depth. Just creating more form. Just a nice shadow. And then you can kind of go back, try to blend it a little bit. Try to blend it into the yellow. Okay, you can add a little bit more intricacies if you wanted to. I would maybe take I have a size 0 spotter. If you have a liner brush, you could take that and maybe put just kind of some little lines, almost like, what would you call it? Like a vine for the grapes. So I would maybe just add a few of those just to give a little texture to the piece and a little more interest. Okay, but we're gonna call that complete. I hope you give this a try. The sketch is linked below in the description. So please try this, paint along with me. Like, subscribe for more tutorials. I would love for you to join. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.